Hello, my name is Riley. Welcome to the video. Welcome to my channel. This is my first time ever doing a commentary, so that's exciting. I've tried to record an intro many times, and I'm just not built for it, so I think I'm just gonna talk. But thanks for coming by. This video is gonna be about the making of my Warrior OC videos that I've been doing. So if you're new to the channel, I'm so sorry that you found this video. You don't have to stay if you don't want to. Most of this probably won't make sense, but you know, if you want to watch it, you're free to stick around, my friend. I hope you have a great time. But if you aren't new here and you have been following along with my Warriors OC journey, if you've been following along with a little Mudpaw, thanks for being here, and thanks for being interested in the story. I've been having a really fun time developing it and being able to share it with everybody, so it's been a really cool experience. So thanks for sticking around. I just realized I said sticking around twice just then, but you know what? That's okay. We own up to our mistakes around here. Anyway, well, I guess I'll start at the beginning, and I know that whenever I was talking about this in the community post, I was like, oh, well, I'll just do a little commentary over the garden PMV that I did, and that's what I was planning to do initially, and then I started actually, thinking about it, and I was like, oh, well, a lot of my, processes and things like that really stemmed from the first one that I did, which was the Johnny animatic that I did. So with the beginning of the story, the entire tale of Mudpaw sort of started when I was listening to the song Johnny by American Horror Song over and over and over and over again, because whenever I find new things that I enjoy, I can't just enjoy them normally. I have to just saturate my brain with whatever it is, this new medium that I found. So I had found that song and I was like, ooh, I like this a lot. I'm gonna listen to it 10 times. And so I was listening to it 10 times and I was like, oh wow, this is giving me some really cool imagery. I would love to make an animatic for it. And I had never made an animatic at this point, and I was like, oh, well, I've tried in the past. I've never finished an animatic, I should say. I've tried in the past doing ones with drawing humans, but at that point I wasn't very fast at drawing humans, and I'm still kind of working on it. But so doing animatics was really difficult for drawing humans with it because it took me so long and I'd lose motivation. But whenever I was thinking about this, I had also been on a kick of drawing warrior cat canon characters. I'd been designing them just in my free time because it was a fun little thing to do that was artsy, that wasn't an assignment for school. So I had cats on the brain, and I was like, oh my gosh, Riley, you've gotten this far in life, you've never had a warrior cat's OC. The time is now. It's 2020. You're in quarantine. This is a low point in your life. You need to bring yourself up by making some battlecat OCs. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I've had an epiphany. So at first I was like, okay, I'm just gonna design the characters, because it'll be maybe I'll never even do this animatic. I'll just design a character. And so I drew Mudpaw for the first time, and at this point he was Mudstripe, and he was a serial killer. And that was the idea for the story at first. I was gonna do a serial killer villain cat that was undiscovered but still living in his clan, and then eventually a group of plucky apprentices were going to uncover the mysteries, and that was the first idea. It's changed a whole lot since then, but that was version 1 of the Mudpaw storyline. And so I started just drawing him, and I was like, oh well, I gotta do some supporting characters, so I drew the rest of the apprentices. Hawkpaw, Puddlepaw, and Whitepaw, and I designed them. They looked super different at first, but I designed them, and I was like, okay, this is a fun little thing. Maybe I'll get around to drawing this sometime. And eventually summer came, and I finished my classes. I didn't have any work to do, and so I was at home, and I was like, wow. I woke up one morning, I was like, man, you know what I should do? I should do an entire animatic. And I sat in my room and I did all of the rough sketches of the Johnny animatic in one day, which is crazy for me because I normally draw like 2 frames and I'm like, that was a lot of hard work, Riley, you should go take a nap. So after I did that, I put it all together in iMovie, and I was like, okay, great, awesome, and I uploaded it to YouTube. So after I uploaded it, I was kind of like, okay, that's probably going to be the end of it, but the story kept kind of kicking around in my head, and I mean, I guess this is what it's like to have OCs, I don't know, but the story kept kicking around in my head, and I was like, oh, well, you know, that video that I made, it's pretty unpolished. Maybe I can go back and I can clean up some of the frames and stuff. And so I go in and I start cleaning up some of them, and then I'm like, oh, well, I'm already doing line art, I might as well color it. And then I colored the frame, and I'm like, well, I already colored it, I may as well shade it. And so I end up coloring and lining and shading all of the whole video over the span of a couple months. I would do like a frame or two every day. And I would try and, like, you know, just slowly and steadily plod through. So after I had finished cleaning everything up and making, like, a full pretty video, I had gone in and I'd, like, you know, I'd changed certain frames and I'd, like, animated certain bits and things like that. And I was really happy with it whenever I uploaded it. And it started getting some pretty cool traction on YouTube, and it made me, like, even more excited about the story. But as I was working on it, the more I thought about the characters, the more I like got attached to my main guy, Mudpaw. And so what I ended up doing was that I basically decided to change his story as being a telling of a villain into the telling of a victim story, because as I worked on the idea in my head and as I sort of like planned sequels, the more I realized that, like, wow, all of this like hate and anger that is in this tiny little creature's heart is really because he's been severely mistreated for most of his life by a person that he should be able to trust. Maybe I shouldn't make him the villain. So what I ended up doing was, I decided to change sort of how I was telling a story, and because of that like changed the entire course of how I wanted to portray him, and that is what sort of sparked my idea for the next video in the series, which, well, I'm skipping Abel because Abel was a really short little, just a fun little thing, but the next main one in the series, which was the garden. So when I started planning for the next video in the series, I didn't know what song I was gonna do with it, and honestly, the song choice is really, really important to my, like, storytelling, because I'm a visual storyteller, and a lot of the visuals that I put into a video are based upon what's happening in the song, or based upon, like, you know, the pacing of the song, or the tune and the mood. So I knew the basic, like, facts that the basic, like, story beats that I needed to hit in the next story. I knew that Mudpaw was going to murder his mentor, Redtail, and I knew it was going to be, like, halfway an accident, halfway, like, on purpose, and I had the idea of him throwing him off a waterfall, and I don't remember where that came from, but I remember thinking, oh man, that'd be pretty cool. And so I knew that, and I also knew that Mudpaw in the end would not feel, like, victorious about the murder. He would feel like, oh no, what did I just do? So I knew that, and what was next in my little journey was I had to find the right song for it. So what I do is I basically just start listening to a bunch of music. I found a couple of like different bands that I enjoyed, and I started listening to a bunch of their songs, and I knew I wanted to do something a little bit indie, a little bit like sort of folk, you know, sort of similar in vibe to the first video, because I don't know, something about it, I just felt like it fit. So I was sort of listening to a bunch of different little indie bands, and I was like, none of these are really fitting, I don't know, and I found a couple where I was like, maybe I could squish this to make it fit, but I didn't want to like make it, you know, forced. So I kept listening to a bunch of different songs, and I eventually was like, oh, the Crane Wives, I love their music, so I listened to a couple of their songs that I liked already, and then I listened to The Garden for the first time, and I was like, you're perfect, especially whenever it hits that one line.
The crows in the garden are laughing at my expense.
That part, when it mentions the crows, I'm like, oh, it fits. I can make a connection from the Johnny video to the new one. This is awesome. So that really like cemented the fact that I was going to use that song. So my next step after finding the song was to do what I did with my Johnny video, and I sat down and I closed my eyes and I listened to the song over and over and over and over again. One, because I really liked the song, and two, because every time I would listen to it, I would try to like visualize, okay, so like this event needs to happen on this one beat, and I would kind of like figure out, okay, so in the beginning I need this character to be here, and I need this character to be here, and then I'd get a couple notes in later, and I'd be like, okay, and at this point I need this person here and this one here, and so I would kind of listen to it over and over again and kind of build the video in my head as I was listening, and that's sort of my process. And what I should have done was do that and then like write down everything, but because I'm stupid, I didn't do that, and I just was like, wow, that was really cool, I want to start on it right now. And so I started drawing, and I like drew the first couple frames because I had like really vivid imagery in my head of what I wanted it to look like, and I was like, okay, awesome, I'm gonna draw these cool trees, and I'm gonna do all these cool things. And so I had started, and then life happened, and I had to stop for a few months. So I kind of forgot a lot of what I was planning to do, and I still wanted to work on it, like I was still like pretty pumped to work on it, but I had kind of like forgotten my first step should have been to like actually plan everything, and if not to plan everything by writing it down, at least to like start by just doing storyboards instead of like doing a sketch and then completing the image and then moving on to the next frame, because that's how you make yourself redo a lot of frames. So I ended up wasting a lot of time having to redraw things that I didn't really like in the beginning, and eventually I kind of worked out a compromise with myself in that I would do the video in sections, where I would do like a storyboard for a verse. I would go through a verse, and I'd do all the sketches for that one part, and then I would stop, and then I would do completion of it, so I'd get like that little serotonin boost in your head whenever you complete a project, and that kind of kept me going and working on it. But it was also a bit longer, I think, because I kept having to like interrupt my process. Like I would get into my sketching mode, and then I would go into my completing mode, and then I'd have to switch back to sketching mode, and then I'd have to switch back to completion. So in the end, the video took me a lot longer. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention, I did eventually actually sit down and like write down everything that I wanted to happen in the video. After I had finished up to, I think, like the 30-second mark maybe, I was like going to dinner with my family. I was like, oh man, you know what I should do? I should actually write this stuff down. So I spent like an evening and the next day afterwards in my free time just like writing down for every verse. I would write down a little like, oh, okay, so like have the apprentices standing around in this area, and then for the next one I would be like, oh, so shot of the mentors on beat, you know. And that was life-saving, because every time I had to stop for a few days or weeks, because that's how life happens sometimes, I would always have something to come back to that I could use as like, oh, right, that's what I was doing in this. So it was a great little reminder. So I eventually became not stupid and I wrote everything down, but it took me a while. So here we are. Video is finished, and I can share with you the work in progress that I had of the sketches and the early versions of certain drawings. And I suppose that what I could do is just play it and then talk a little bit over it, so I think we'll do that. Alright, and I'm going to try to sync this up so that I'll be able to talk accurately to what's going on screen. So I'll play the video right now. So in the beginning we have the like opening shots, and those ones were some of the first ones that I did. That one got redone, obviously, because I didn't like that it didn't have anything to do with the story. But yeah, these opening shots I had done like really early on, because they were like sort of the vivid images that I had in my head. And then, of course, I wanted an establishing shot of the camps, and what I'd been trying to do with this whole thing was to work more on my backgrounds. So a lot of these are, you know, there'll be high-up shots of the camp, or, you know, like bird's eye view, yeah! And yeah, I wanted to work on that some, but I also wanted to really focus on like character emotion and on, you know, being able to convey a lot of the feelings of the characters without having to rely on like them speaking or anything like that. And here's the apprentices, I love them. I really liked doing that one frame because it was just big and sort of dynamic and not very flat, and I really wanted to challenge myself on that one. I loved doing the character shenanigans of the other mentors and apprentices, and another overhead shot. But I had a good time trying to like figure out what their personalities were and their relationships, and sort of contrasting that to Mudpaw and Wrentail's relationship, and sort of showing him being all like angsty and sad in front of everybody, and everybody's not really noticing because he just kind of blends into the background. And then here we got some animosity, and he's kind of like dismissive, and Mudpaw's like, oh, I do not like you. So now we got some camp shots of the clan. That rock up there was actually I saw that on a hike, and so I took pictures of it for reference. They're out hunting. Mudpaw's like, oh, I'm being all edgy. I'm feeling the blood on my hands. I need to experience more of that. Yeah. More bird motif, because I like bird motif. The big pounce, here it comes. There he is. Kabow. And then this part was really interesting to try to do. I don't animate fight scenes, so maybe you can tell from that. Maybe not. Hopefully not. And he's like snarling, and they're like, oh, tumbling down the hill, into the water. Oh, frick, I'm gonna slip, ah! And he's like, oh, frick, he's gonna throw me off, and he does it. And he's like, oh, you stupid idiot child, I'm gonna tear you a new one. And Mudpaw's like, oh, well, this is not ideal, I'm a little frightened. And he's like, ah! He winds up and he kicks him off, and I'm like, yeah, that's a really cool shot, that's a cool thing to do. Oh no! I had planned that moment for a while, and I was pretty happy with how it came out. I wasn't super fond of the frame where Wrentail's falling down, because I just couldn't find a way to make him not look goofy. And then we have this really big frame. It's like, oh, frick, guys, I am totally lying right now. You know? Gosh, I don't know how to do the commentary. So the camp's all like, oh no, they're all freaking out. I had so much fun drawing all these cats, dude. I had so much fun doing frames with everybody in them. And now we've got everybody digging. They're like, you know, shuffling them away. Goodbye, Rentail. Sucks to be you. Oh, fun fact about this flower, I actually did like legitimate like flower language research and did something that was fitting. That was a bloodroot. Anyway, yeah. The flowers as crows and the switching and the isolation at the end, woo, it's all very dramatic. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's kind of a disjointed mess, but I hope it was at least something fun to listen to, maybe put on as background noise while you're drawing or something. I won't take offense, but thanks for coming by, thanks for listening, thanks for supporting me by checking out my little Battlecat OCs. I'm really happy that I'm able to share a cool story with everybody that seems to be engaging and that everybody can kind of enjoy with me, you know. I plan to continue telling his story, you know, telling his tale, and I hope I can do it justice and really live up to everybody's expectations for what's going on. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and or night. I hope you have drunk enough water today that you're properly hydrated, because Lord knows I'm not. Try to get some good sleep. Give your pets a hug today if they're huggable. I have a pet fish. I can't hug him, but I can pretend to. And, yeah. Bye-bye.